This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello, we continue with the road less traveled, episode 21, self-sacrifice, chapter 21, self-sacrifice. And I have three questions that I thought about while reading this. So one of the things is, have you ever felt like you need to understand everyone else just because you want to be a loving person and you want to be concerned about everybody's needs? Another one is, have you ever put other people's needs over yours? And finally, have you ever sworn to be loving and caring and just the opposite, like maybe some other people that you have met in your life that they were egotistical or they were like something that you didn't want in your life, and so you sworn to be not like them and created an identity about that? Well, those three questions are they're not in the book exactly, but I was thinking about that while reading, because I think they are the perfect image of what this chapter is about, which again is called self-sacrifice, right? And I know because I have also been in that position of sacrificing my personal needs in order to be loving and concerned about others and being take care of others. And that is something that we have to understand, that when we have that kind of behavior is because we have formed an identity for ourselves where we are, or in my case I was the loving person that could never. For example, in my case, I used to say, okay, I won't be like those, for example, bullies in the streets that are treating people like that, or I won't be the bad guy that they are shouting at people and calling their names, those kind of things. So I try to build this identity as the good guy or the good person, right? And this is, you put so much pressure on yourself, right, by doing this, and which in a certain way can be good because you try to be a good person and that's okay. But at the same time, you sometimes infantilize the other people because you are saying, oh, poor they can't do this, so I have to help them do this because they just can. Or you try to justify every action that they do just to not to lose that identity that you already have, like the good person, right? So this is about, this chapter is about that. Okay. And the doctor here tells the story. He actually tells two stories, but I will only mention one maybe. The doctor says that there was a minister who was married and he had a wife and two sons. And his sons had left university, had come back to home, and they did nothing all day. They just basically trashed the house, and he was after cleaning everything. And his wife wanted him to take her everywhere. Because he was the one driving, so she wanted to go to the opera, for example, and she would drive her and be at the opera while he was totally bored at the opera, and those kind of things. And he went finally to therapy with the doctor, and the doctor started analyzing him, asking questions, and those kind of things. And they realized that this minister, this priest, we could say, I don't know if the same thing, but in here in Argentina you can relate it more like a married priest. Well, this minister was had made his identity, also being a minister, being the good guy. He had made this self-identity because he felt he needed to sacrifice for his family, because he didn't want to be like his father, who had been a person that, even though he was a good businessman, he was not loving with his family. And so he said, I don't want to be like that. I want to be the good guy in the relationship with my family and everything. So everything that the family did, he would go and clean after them, and he would do everything for them to be happy. But in the process, he wasn't happy. And so the doctor and him, he started to understand that he needed to change something in order also for his family to grow, because he was unhappy and his family was too. Their children weren't had left university, they were doing nothing with their lives and those kind of things. So when he decided to confront that and to understand that love is about confronting the issues at hand, and he confronted his sons and his wife, of course not all at the same time, I guess. It's the process. At first, when he decided, I'm not doing the cleaning anymore on my own, for example, they would become angry, their family, because they were so used that he was the one cleaning all the time, for example. And he said to his wife, I won't take you to the opera anymore because I don't like it. So he started to become honest with his family, and they became angry at first. And that's the point when we sometimes decide, okay, I'm going to do this because I know I need to change, and I'm going to do that, and then the other person gets angry, and sometimes we take back our steps of progress, right? However, in this case, it all turned out okay, because the family, for example, the sons, went to university again, even though they were angry at first, but then they changed their behavior. They started providing by themselves, becoming independent. His wife also had some spiritual growth, as the doctor calls here. She could drive herself. She also made friends out of the family. So everyone was happy in the end. But by taking action in that direction, the minister did a great service actually to their family, instead of just being the one sacrificing, right? So the doctor says something, and I will quote it and leave it here. He says the minister's misguided love bordered on more serious perversion of love, that is masochism. So sometimes we think that we are sacrificing, but we are to actually infringing hurt or pain on ourselves, right? And as you can see, many times masochism and sadomasochisms are things that we associate with sexual behavior and that kind of thing. But in this case, it can also apply to, or in many cases, it can also apply to non-sexual interpersonal relationships. And this behavior of masochism, what makes us feel, we can say, we have this identity of the good person, and I have to sacrifice, poor me. And what happened is that at the same time, I feel like I have a moral superiority. I'm better than the other ones because I'm the good person, or I'm the better person, and they are poor, and I need to take care of them, and poor people, and those kind of things. Or sometimes it is because you have developed a relationship where, for example, Yes, you are mistreated, you are humiliated sometimes, or you accept those behaviors from the others and you sacrifice yourself, but at the same time, you can later on get some kind of revenge. And he also goes to mention another case that I will not mention here about a relationship between some people that this couple, sorry, they were like coming and going with taking revenge and that kind of thing. So that was totally unhealthy relationship. But it is the same behavior. By sacrificing, you are living out yourself. And of course, self-sacrifice is not about growing as love is supposed to be, but it's about shrinking and also losing some part of yourself. You're not growing, totally the opposite. You are diminishing yourself. And if you remember, we have been saying that loving is actually about setting boundaries, taking responsibility for the actions we do, and also it's basically love is also wanting for you to grow and the other person in the relationship also to grow. This could be a son, a father, a sibling, whichever relationship you have with other person, but it's the aim of love, or what you want out of love is to grow and to extend yourself, to extend and grow. Again, that has to do with discipline, taking responsibility, setting boundaries. Now, I want to mention something that I extracted, and this is not in the book, but it's something that I could observe and extract also from personal experience about the language that we use when we, and also for the quotes the doctor has here, what people were saying in these cases. And I remember that I will start by saying what the doctor mentions here. So he says, when you do something for others, that's what you say, I'm doing this for the other person. It's like you are disengaging from your own responsibility. You are not responsible for that because you're doing that for someone else. So there's someone else that has some power over you, right? So you are disengaging from your freedom. You have no responsibility. You're just doing what they say or for the other person. And you have to know that you have the choice. As we talked, I think, in the previous chapter, you have the choice to do whatever you want to do in any case. And when you activate the power in you of choosing, that is when, for example, if you want to do something for others, it's because you want to do it and you have always a choice. And I remember when I was much younger, and this I think it was a coach that once told me, you don't have to do, because I love this language, as we were saying about language. I used to say I have to do this, and I would go explain something because this and this and this and this, but that wording, I have to do this, or I should do this, or I must do this kind of language is setting you on a path that things are expected for you to do, right? But you can change those words. For example, instead of saying I have to, or I should, or I must, you could just say I could do something. Then you have the option. I say, oh, for example, something that I did was, I don't know, I said, I should do more exercise, or I have to do some exercise even though I don't want to do that. So you can replace that for I could do more exercise, or I could eat less, or I could do this or that. So you have the option. You could, yes, But does that mean that you want to do that? Or does that mean that you have to do that? I don't think so. So you have the choice there. So when you start, and if you remember, I mentioned before, I think I am also an NLP coach, and language is really important there. So just by changing that little word in your talk, in your speech, even though in your internal thoughts and dialogue, just by changing that, of course, it's a process again to try that several times until it sticks in you. Just by changing that, you can change your whole perception of things. So you are no longer in the obligation to do something, but you can choose now to do that or not to do that. So that's something that could help you in your own process, right? To regain your power, especially. And again, that is not mentioned in the book about these words, but as I was reading, I remember that, and I think it's super, super useful. Okay, and there's another thing that this chapter mentions, which is the paradox of love. And almost everything that we have been talking here requires balance, right? So this paradox of love, says that we have to be selfish and unselfish at the same time. So you can say, oh, what do I do, right? Because yes, I have to be a little amount of selfish, but not that much. How do I balance that? So what might help you do that is that think about what is the aim of the action you are about to do, right? Because if this balance can be achieved if you say, okay, I want to be a loving person, but I want to be somehow selfish in certain things and unselfish in other. So if I have to judge the situation, if I have to put myself in the situation, I have to say, okay, how will this other person grow, and myself too, and at the same time in this relationship? In this particular case, if I'm selfish, will I help the relationship, for example, in the long term? Will we grow spiritually or mentally, or any kind of growth will happen if I'm selfish or if I'm unselfish in this situation? So that is the right amount of giving I have to do at the moment. So I can give a little more, I'm unselfish. And if in this case I should refrain myself from giving, then I'm selfish at this particular time. So it doesn't have to be all the time, it can vary, right? It's a balance. That is really, really interesting. And those are the main things that I could gather from this chapter. And I hope you enjoyed that too. I hope my personal insights can also help you extend yourself and become better if you want. And having said that, I will also leave, while I was reading about this sacrifice and all this kind of things, I remember about the song Sacrifice by Elton John. And so I will leave it somewhere in the comments for you to enjoy that song if you like. And please comment. Also, you can contribute with the channel by liking it, this video, sharing with others, inviting me for a coffee, or just check out and see the whole video. That's super, super appreciated. And so, see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for Uluwa's next episode.